I'm here with the cast, creator, crew, contributors to NatGeo's Mars. First of all, this is a pretty innovative show. Seeing as it's told through a story that's a full-on drama, but also kind of this documentary style thing. And I know this season, or the season coming up, I should say, is moving in towards the more dramatic direction. Is that correct?
Well, I think proportionally it's sort of, well, you know, I'm there. Of course, I'm going to fight for every last little bit of scripted. So it's maybe 75-25.
75.
The hybrid part of it, I mean, the documentary part of it is still essential, and that's what's unique about the storytelling. Last year and this year, it sort of syncs up and really takes it to a different level.
So I'm fascinated with space, but I don't understand it. And
join the club.
break it down for me, because here's the thing. With Mars, and this is obviously what the show's about, we can conceivably live on Mars, correct? Correct.
Definitive.
We've actually been able to live on Mars for more than 40 years. NASA's had the technology to do this for a long, long time. We just made a choice to do something different, which was to have an International Space Station and a space shuttle instead in the interim. But von Braun, who brought the space program into being in this country, told President Nixon in 1972 we could land people on Mars in 1985.
Really? Let's play some what-if scenarios. I feel like that this is a fun little game, right? Let's play some what-if scenarios. If the chance presented itself, would you as yourselves go to Mars? You would definitely. I could see the look in your eyes. You would also go. Why is that?
I mean, we are explorers. It's in our DNA, and I've had a chance to see the planet from the vantage point of the International Space Station, and it changed me fundamentally.
Really?
From a cognitive standpoint. We got this thing called the overview effect, or the orbital perspective, which you're going around the planet every 90 minutes, seeing a sunrise and a sunset every 45, doing what people used to fight against, breaking bread with these people used to fight against, and it changes you into knowing that we are one race, and we can work together in peace if we just have this perspective shift. And so I think if more people would have the chance to see our planet from this vantage point, and even from Mars, it's even a different vantage point. It's a little blue spot.
Sure. That
they may change and want to be more inclusive and see each other as human beings all together on this marble, working together.
Anybody else taking that risk?
Nope. No.
I don't think I'd go either.
No,
I would
I'm out.
only go if there is a jungle in an ocean. Like once it's way developed.
There is water, right?
In the Barna Gym.
Am I correct?
Well, there's a lot of ice.
There's a lot of water. If you melted all the ice on Mars, the planet would be 1,000 feet deep in water. The only thing above water would be Olympus Mons, the highest volcano, 30,000 feet. So everything else would be underwater. There's that much water on Mars. And that's the key critical ingredient that means we could exist there.
Okay, so working on this show, obviously, you obviously get an education on space, which I'm sure you may not have had before.
Why'd you look at me?
Because I feel like
do I have dumb face?
No, I feel like you and I are in the same wavelength there. Definitely in the same wavelength there. But you get a little bit of an education on this stuff, and the dramatization of it and the narrative of it. Where can we see things going in the next season coming up?
Well, I mean,
like story-wise, of course.
Well, the story, I mean, it's funny to piggyback on what Leland was saying. It's like it's a very optimistic viewpoint that he has from out there. One, obviously, will never share. But if you have that many people who, when they get to Mars, that idea might change if they're there long enough. You know what I mean? It's like, and if dynamics and motives change, they're going to get to this place and they're going to lose that sense of camaraderie and oneness because of it's unique. It's going to come down to like, well, we're here for a reason, and not everybody's going to be there for the same reason. And we touch on that in season 2.
The season really is about the arrival of a new colony that is separate from our scientists, and they have a totally different agenda.
So the NatGeo, the mic holder, NatGeo Mars. The story's told in such a unique way, and I think it's a great way to kind of bring in new viewers that normally maybe aren't maybe into the documentary style telling of the story. What do you want audiences to take away going into the next season?
We had the same question on the other panel, and we were very we had different. I just think that hopefulness is what we're taking away from it. Although I think that we're going to have to go through a lot of paces in terms of not repeating the processes that we've had on Earth. And I know that you had a great answer to it, so I'm going to toss it back to you. No, you don't have one.
Mars represents the next future for humanity on Earth. We can't survive here forever. We're a nomadic species. We've always been a nomadic species. We're eventually going to end up on a planet that's a lot more like Earth than Mars, one which we have not spent the money to go out and find yet, but we will hopefully soon. And Mars represents promise for the entire human race, promise of existence and promise of growth and promise of becoming a spacefaring society. And we move on to Mars. It's like a stepping stone into our future.
But I think the show is cautiously optimistic in that it doesn't sugarcoat the conflict that's going to happen when you have, first of all, an established group of people who've already got a little bit of a foothold in there and are there for one specific purpose, for a scientific purpose. And then you introduce into that a new set of explorers and colonists who are there for a very specifically commercial purpose. And I think the show does a beautiful job of not making either side the heroes or the villains, but showing that there is going to be conflict, it's not going to be pretty, and it's going to lead, as it has for hundreds of years, to some violent and unsettled times.
Leland, I feel like you should definitely be like a spokesperson for Mars. Like you might be selling me at this point to get my ticket and go as
You're
well.
going. You're going.
Well, I might be now, right? You need somebody to interview people but no, but seriously, I'm sure that like this is kind of mind blowing to me because, like I said, I've always been so fascinated by space, but I have the shortest attention span possibly in the world, and it's just very hard for me to like really understand everything you guys are talking about. However, you said that we had the technology to go years ago. Why has that not been in use?
Well, because we made a different decision. I mean, we essentially made a decision to build the space shuttle probably because all the intelligence services in the United States wanted it, because at that time all our spy satellites operated on film and were not digital, and it was thought that it would be a lot cheaper to have the space shuttle serve the purposes of satellites that had film instead of trying to drop it in the Arizona desert and sometimes succeeding and sometimes not. So we made a political decision. There were 10 shuttle flights that were classified and are still classified, and we don't know what happened on those flights. NASA was always supposed to be a completely transparent U.S. government agency in which you knew everything they were doing, and then all of a sudden we had 10 classified flights, and then it became so expensive to launch the shuttle, about $1.5 billion every time it was launched, that the the intelligence agencies said, I think digital might be better, and we could spend our money different ways. So, and then we continued with the space station because we finally had a place for the shuttle to go. And as that program has wound down, private industry is actually introducing itself into space. You no longer need governments to get you into space. We can do it privately now, and we can do it for less money, faster, better, and cheaper. And so governments have actually lost control of the space race, and private corporations like SpaceX are going to Mars.
That's crazy.
On the flip side, though, I mean, NASA did give SpaceX $4 billion to kickstart things, and so it has, and we are going to be paying for commercial vehicles to bring, hardware and stuff to the space station. So it's still a relationship with the private sector, but Elon and company, they're looking at further sites earlier than possibly NASA, and that's a wonderful thing, because it's all I mean, the more people that get this effect that I had will help unify the planet faster.
So, real quick, just talking about the story of back to the show, I want to talk about possibly how the scripts are developed, and when you guys get the scripts, like what goes through you guys' heads of like, okay, like do you fully grasp it, or somebody Does somebody pull you aside and like, hey, listen, this is the deal?
Well, yeah, a lot of technical aspects have to be explained. A lot of things have to be explained to me personally beyond technical stuff. But you know, as an actor, and you just even drawing the conversation back to the show is what's fascinating about this show. You can have a scripted conversation, then you can have the documentary conversation, and you can get lost in both, and they serve each other. You know, the doc serves the story; it fills in the blank, and also when you marry it with real science and really smart people talking about it, it makes what she and I do look better, more real. It's more believable. You know.
I believe you guys.
I believe you guys too.
Thanks, Leland.
I mean, when I watched season 1, I was like,
I wasn't in it, so.
I did see season 2.
Jeff, I was totally on board with season 2.
Can we talk
It's
about
bigger than all of us.
the location of where you guys shoot, by the way,
We shot in Budapest.
which is quite amazing to me,
It just conjures up Mars.
and Morocco.
Yeah, for the exteriors. The Mars exterior.
Really, that's what Mars exterior would look like with Morocco. No, I mean that's super fascinating to me.
Middle of
Yeah,
the Sahara
middle of
Desert.
nowhere.
Really,
Tests its rovers
really,
on Mars, yeah.
In their food.
really, that's amazing.
And Jihad, tell him what a lovely place Morocco is in the summer.
Morocco in the summer is
In a suit, spacesuit.
in a spacesuit at 125 degrees.
When it's supposed to be 125 below.
And you're supposed to act cold, and the electricity goes out on everything from your makeup trailer to your own trailer to it's pretty brutal. And people during that period, I guess on season 1 anyway, you know, the local people it's during Ramadan, so the 100 local crew running around and helping you, bringing you water, and they can't eat or drink all day long while they're sweating and helping. So that was like. That was tough. How do I deal with that on top of
Wow.
everything else? But you know, so I think, but it was there was a scene there where it looked like we were dying, and we weren't acting.
I think you actually just sold me on not going to Mars now, because anything could go wrong, and that was just Morocco.
Yeah.
So can you imagine on Mars?
Can you
that-
imagine that? Yeah.
That's-
Any little thing.
That's crazy. So now, obviously, when you guys get the scripts and you read through them, and you brilliant minds back here, when you guys see kind of inaccuracies of, okay, well this isn't the way it would go. I love how you're already passing the mic over. This isn't the way it would go.
It
We have
didn't,
a-
it
we have
didn't
a
go that
very-
way. It didn't go that way.
We have a very friendly, fun relationship. First of all, we did start early, sat down with the actors, with the writers and Dee on season 2 and talked about possibilities and what could happen, what could go wrong. If you sent a commercial crew to Mars, what kind of commercial crew would it be, etc. So we had a lot of established ground beforehand. Season 1 had already set up kind of the parameters of the colony on Mars, so that didn't have to all be explained, so you could kind of launch quickly into the storylines. And a lot of the science is in small details. You know, it's whether or not, you know, the sun would be rising in where it's rising in the scene, for example, or would it be rising over there? It's a lot of small details like that that make it feel real.
Interesting. Now, I know Rob Keyes, who's one of our editors here at Screen Rant, he went out to the set visit, and I'm going to tell you, he didn't make it look like he was dying. It looked amazing out there, where I think it was Budapest where you guys were. It looked
I was talking about Morocco.
Yeah, Morocco,
Yeah,
another
Budapest
story,
was
another story. But,
Budapest is beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
It's a beautiful city.
So what can we expect from the next season?
A lot
A lot.
of action
A lot of conflict.
and conflict and,
we're digging
and
into-
excitement.
yeah.
You will be surprised.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All those things and more.
And you said now it's 75-25, the way that the story is being told more
Ish,
so.
you know, it depends on the episode, but we definitely dug into more character stuff because they're established. Season
Right,
1 was so
right.
much about getting there, right? Now they're there, and what's that like? And especially when you bring another colony in and they aren't necessarily friends.
Well, we're just going to have to wait and see how
That's right.
that all plays out in NatGeo's Mars. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and enjoy San Diego Comic-Con. Try to get out to the floor and explore a little bit.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you guys so much for stopping by.
Thanks.